studios in the nation's capital, your most reliable source for news, national, regional, and the rest of the world. Welcome to Kairi FM's Major News. Here's your presenter.
Good evening, welcome to Kairi FM's Major News. I'm Priska Julian. Here are the headlines making the major news this evening. In national focus, Dominican citizens can now travel visa-free to China, and UNDP spotlights disaster risk reduction project for female farmers. Regionally, former LIAT pilots seeking further clarification on severance payment, and internationally, Taliban unveil new rules banning women in TV dramas. The details of the news right after the break.
More ways to win big this Christmas. The more you watch, listen, and stream your favorite Digicel apps, the more chances you have to win from thousands of prizes. Enter to win the grand prize of easy $15,000, a weekend for two at Cabrit's Resort and Spa Kempinski, or a $1,500 supermarket shopping spree. Simply listen to your favorite Christmas carols in D-Music, watch movies in Playgo, or connect with friends in Beep to win unlimited music, live sports, movies, and more for a year. We're all winners with guaranteed win days. Shake to win in the My Digicel app today. Digicel, better together this Christmas.
Are you looking for good eggs? I mean quality fresh eggs straight from the farm? Well, we have exactly what you're looking for, no matter the quantity. We've got the right amount. Visit us at Prince City downstairs Kairi FM on Independence Street for your fresh farm eggs, or call telephone 448-7331, 448-7330 or 448-8752 and we'll get you your fresh farm eggs.
I'm not exaggerating, boiling with excitement.
Do you listen to Kairi? Download the Kairi FM Android app on Google Play Store for 24/7 radio on the go. Visit our website at www.kairifm.com and stay connected with all your favorite programs. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram and never miss a beat on your genuine sound. Kairi FM.
Welcome back. We welcome our listeners on Variety Radio in Antigua and Flow TV channel 119 in St. Lucia. China has been added to Dominica's list of visa-free countries for Dominican citizens, this following the signing of a visa waiver agreement today. Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerritt and His Excellency Lin Jiang, Ambassador of the People's Republic of China to Dominica, signed the new protocols which apply to Dominica passport holders of all categories. A press release from the office of the Prime Minister stated that the visa-free agreement takes immediate effect. Prime Minister Skerritt said the agreement on mutual visa exemption will enhance relations between China and Dominica. He noted that this clearly is a special dispensation and consideration which China is granting, especially in the pandemic period, and so we are even more grateful for the signing of this agreement. Acknowledging that there is one China, Mr. Skerritt added that Dominica will assist where it can in the peaceful reunification of the PRC. His Excellency Lin Jiang is China's new ambassador to Dominica. He presented his credentials to President His Excellency Charles Savre on Monday. He told the signing ceremony, "We want to push our bilateral relations to new heights and to facilitate international travel between our two peoples." Dominica and China formally established diplomatic relations in March 2004. Meantime, Director of the Citizen by Investment Unit, Ambassador Emmanuel Nathan, says there is visa travel to 162 countries for Dominica.
So now every Dominican citizen can travel to China. The government of Dominica has made it its priority to ensure that Dominicans traveling on our Dominican passport have visa-free access to as many countries as possible in the world. And we have moved those numbers from around 120 about 5-6 years ago to about 160 countries, 162 countries now, countries and territories worldwide.
Despite negative criticism of the CBI program, Ambassador Nathan noted that the country's passport ranking is high.
Well and truly, there are not many things that you could say that's critical of the program. Sometimes it is used for local politics, but that is water under the bridge. That is a side to me, and I already dwell on it. I dwell on the fact that the Dominican passport is becoming stronger and stronger. We have increased in a matter of 2 years from 120 to 160 countries that we could visit visa-free or visa on arrival. I believe every Dominican citizen must be and would be proud of that, and every Dominican citizen would be grateful for the achievement and the efforts of the government in achieving that kind of respect for the passport that we as citizens use to travel globally.
Director of the Citizens by Investment Unit, Ambassador Emmanuel Nathan. The Electoral Office has announced COVID-19 protocols for all polling stations in the Grand Bay constituency for Thursday's by-elections, in an effort to keep electors and election workers safe prior to and during polling day for the by-election to elect a representative of the House of Assembly for the Grand Bay constituency on Thursday, November 25th, 2021. The following COVID-19 protocols will be in effect at all polling stations. Among the protocols are arrangements for all poll workers to take the rapid antigen test 5 days before the poll and voters to observe the 6 feet physical distance and voters will use sanitized pencils provided to them mark their ballot and deposit them in a separate bin. All pencils and the voting booths will be sanitized after every 5 voters.
We would really like all electors to exercise the right to vote safely. So the Electoral Commission has approved recommendations from the Environmental Health Department for polling day during the upcoming by-election. These include measures that protect the voters as well as the election workers and the police. They require all to wear face masks, to sanitize upon entry to the polling station, and maintain social distancing. I'd like to make a special note of the sanitization that will be required before dipping in the indelible ink, and that sanitized pencils will be used since those procedures are new.
Polls will open at 7 a.m. and close at 5 p.m. on polling day. Agriculture Minister Fidel Grant says while Dominica does not have the capability to prevent disasters, he believes our preparedness as a nation can save lives and property and reduce their impacts. He was speaking at the opening of a week of activities to sensitize the public on the strengthening of the disaster management capacity of women in the Cooperative Republic of Guyana and the Commonwealth of Dominica project. The Guidon project is implemented by the United Nations Development Program, Barbados, and the Eastern Caribbean with the support of the government of Japan. He says government's investment in the agriculture sector continues to bear fruit.
The Guidon project is therefore very timely, and we are grateful for the interventions being made in the lives of our farmers, who we consider to be the backbone of Dominica. We are especially pleased for the recognition of women farmers, who play a critical role in national food security. We thank the UNDP for the support through farm tools, water tanks, and other essentials which prepare them for mitigation against the effects of natural disasters and the effects of climate change. As the world continues to fight COVID-19, food security is a growing concern for many first world countries. This government is committed to the necessary investments in the agriculture sector to ensure the population has access to affordable, nutritious foods. The government's investment in this sector continues to bear fruit, and this is evident by the wide variety of produce available and the number of sustainable jobs created within the sector. We are committed to having nutritious foods on our tables and money in the pockets of our farmers.
Agriculture Minister Fidel Grant. In related news, Deputy Resident Representative for UNDP Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean, Hugo Blanca, says it's imperative that there are targeted interventions in place to help narrow the differential impact on men and women and increase their resilience to disasters.
Farming is a business. We must therefore treat it as one. I also ask all women farmers and farmers in general to register with the ministry and make use,
because it tackles 3 priorities for UNDP worldwide: climate change, resilience, and gender equality. Also, it promotes economic diversification and job creation that in times of COVID are obviously very, very important. We are vulnerable. In seeds, we are vulnerable to climate change, we are vulnerable to pandemics, to financial crisis, to natural disasters, to dependencies on tourism sector, and many others. So shocks impact differently men and women. Nothing new here. We know that. Vulnerable groups are more exposed to crises and are less resilient. Men and women's unequal participation in agriculture becomes more evident when measuring the disproportionate access, in negative terms, of women to land, credit, extension services, and other productive assets.
He says in Dominica, as the country with the largest UNDP offices in the region, the focus will be on the blue and green economy, resilient building, biodiversity, and agriculture.
Of paramount importance is also the design of policies and programs that provide protection for women and vulnerable groups in the event of hazards. This protection can include the provision of access to financing, very important, access to financing, insurance, land ownership, and customer-focused banking services, adaptive social protection systems, and income support mechanisms that respond adequately to shocks will become increasingly important to ensure that the most vulnerable women and men in island states can prepare and recover from disasters. Within the wider context of the UNDP's commitment to support the government of Dominica, achieve its objective of becoming the first climate resilient country in the world. This is big, this is very important. Dominica is the country that is aiming and working very hard to become the first climate resilient country in the world. And we are very pleased as UNDP to be a partner in this journey. So this project has an overall objective of reducing vulnerabilities of small farmers and women's groups, and represents an extension of the support UNDP continues to provide to national counterparts through increasing resilience to the impact of natural disasters.
Deputy Resident Representative for UNDP Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean, Hugo Blanco. Dominica has signed a carbon trading agreement with the Confederation of Switzerland to advance the goals of Article 6 of the Paris Climate Agreement. The agreement was inked by Minister for the Environment, Rural Modernization and Kalinago Upliftment, Honourable Cozier Frederick, at the United Nations Climate Conference in Glasgow, Scotland. The agreement will facilitate Dominica's transition to climate resilience and low-carbon economic transformation and will include electrification of the island's transport sector. Under the agreement, the government of Dominica will have access to comprehensive financial support to implement projects resulting in measurable carbon reductions. Coordinator of the Green Climate Fund in the Ministry of Finance, Economic Affairs and Planning, Michael Savary, says this means the two countries can collaborate to take climate action.
It will allow for Dominica to develop a pipeline of projects, a list of projects that result in climate mitigation actions. In other words, where it allows the movement from using diesel and gasoline and other kinds of fossil fuels into a new renewable energy. Either in instance, we have, for example, the National Low Carbon Transport Project. So we're looking at moving comprehensively towards renewables in transportation, and it allows us for new modalities of transportation using electricity that we've never had before. So it's very exciting transformation and a collaborative support that allows for us to reduce carbon emissions while at the same time moving forward in a low carbon development pathway that allows Dominica to transform itself, its economy and its livelihood for its citizens.
Government has already approved a feasibility study for the National Low Carbon Transport Project being undertaken by Grutter Consultants, a Switzerland-based firm. Savra says the feasibility analysis will examine the possibility of electric vehicles and non-motorized vehicles for Rosso.
So this is the first project that framework agreement has really supported. And so therefore, if you're doing something like this, you require to get the data, the information. So we are at the information gathering stage. You know, how much vehicles do people use? How much fuel does it cost? Where do they walk? How do they journey? You know, this fundamental information that will then feed into the actual design of what kind of vehicles we get that are able to do the work that we want them to do, what kind of affordability issues, price that we can afford. Do we use buses to go from one area to the next, or do we use cars? Where do we put charging stations for PVs? Do we use ammonia for vessels, or do we use hydrogen for vessels? Do we use trams in Roseau? These are the kinds of questions that the feasibility will look at and then come to a determination about what is possible, probable, and what people can afford.
Article 6 of the Paris Climate Agreement recognizes voluntary collaborative actions between countries to reduce carbon emissions as an adaptive response to climate change and the promotion of sustainable development and environmental integrity. An additional 22 projects were added last week for the rebuilding of homes under the Housing Recovery Project of the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development. This brings to 94 the total number of projects awarded to 32 active contractors under the HRP. To date, 317 beneficiaries have been approved for housing assistance following a rigorous process of selection. A press release from the HRP office indicated that 65 houses are currently under construction, and with this additional contracts, it means that 22 more houses will be added to that complement within a 2-week period. Under the HRP, contractors are required to mobilize on the site on or before 14 days of signing the contract. HRP project manager Nicholas Bruno says he expects the first batch of houses will be handed over to recipients soon.
We are working assiduously to ensure that we fulfill our mandate of delivering climate-resilient homes to those affected. We have had some challenges, such as rising cost of building materials, access to some sites, land tenure issue, and of course, current pandemic inclusive of health protocols that must be followed. But the HRP team is pressing forward, and we hope to deliver the first batch of houses soon. Have 12 houses that are practically complete. We're just doing the final vetting, snag list, and as soon as that is completed, which we anticipate will be soon, we will have those houses delivered to the beneficiaries.
HRP project manager Nicholas Bruno. The Housing Recovery Project Implementation Unit came into operation in February 2019 and was designed to benefit persons whose homes up to 500 square feet were completely destroyed following the passage of Hurricane Maria in 2017. 420 families are set to benefit from the HRP. The project originally aimed to assist 1,700 households island-wide through a package of technical services for the resilient rebuilding of houses, as well as administrative services and financial services, consisting of a grant of $50,000. This figure was since revised upwards to $125,000 per beneficiary. The increased quantum, together with a reallocation of funds to the government's COVID-19 response, accounts for the reduction in the number of houses to be built under the project. The HRP-PIU is spearheaded by the government of the Commonwealth of Dominica and financed by the World Bank through a U.S. $30 million grant and a U.S. $10 million credit. And into regional news, the Leeward Islands Airlines Pilot Association Monday said it is seeking to hold a meeting with Prime Minister Gaston Brown to address discrepancies contained in an official correspondence detailing the government's position regarding the offer being made to former employees of LIAT. In a letter to members, LIAPA President Patterson Thomas acknowledged receiving official correspondence from the Cabinet Secretary of Antigua detailing the Antigua government's position on the compassionate payout. Thompson said in his note to his members this correspondence has omitted most of the key points discussed with the Prime Minister in October 8th meeting. He said ILIAPA intends to call a general meeting next week, but no date has yet been confirmed. The letter from the Antigua and Barbuda government follows a statement from Cabinet after its weekly meeting last week, where ministers gave their support for an offer of 50% of severance payment owed to former employees of the airline. The cabinet statement said that this amount could be paid before Christmas for distribution to all severed employees of LIAT throughout the system. However, the statement added it must form a part of the entire agreement, swiftly upon all unions, and the sum is to be deducted from all payments to be made in the proposed settlement. And in international news, women have been banned from appearing in television dramas in Afghanistan under the new rules imposed by the Taliban government. Female journalists and presenters have also been ordered to wear headscarves on screen, although the guidelines do not say which type of covering to use. Reporters say some of the rules are vague and subject to interpretation. The Taliban seized power in Afghanistan in mid-August, and many fear they are gradually imposing harsh restrictions. The militant Islamist group, which took control following the departure of U.S. and allied forces, almost immediately instructed girls and young women to stay home from school. During their previous rule in the 1990s, women were barred from education and the workplace. The latest set of Taliban guidelines, which have been issued to Afghan television channels, features 8 new rules. They include the banning of films considered against the principles of Sharia or Islamic law and Afghan values, while footage of men exposing intimate parts of the body is prohibited. Comedy and entertainment shows that insult religion or may be considered offensive to Afghans are also forbidden. The Taliban have insisted that foreign films promoting foreign cultures' values should not be broadcast. Afghan television channels show mostly foreign dramas with lead female characters. A member of an organization that represents journalists in Afghanistan said the announcement of new restrictions was unexpected. You've just heard the national, regional, and international news. Here's a recap of the headlines. In national news, Dominican citizens can now travel visa-free to China. And also, the UNDP spotlights disaster risk reduction project for female farmers. Regionally, former Liet pilots seeking further clarification on severance payment. And internationally, Taliban unveils new rules banning women in TV dramas. Those were the major news headlines this evening. Catch Kairi News on the go 24 hours a day on www.kairifm.com. Also follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/KairiFM, or follow us on Twitter at KairiFM Dominica. On behalf of the entire news team, I'm Priska Julian. Good evening.